Hello, and thank you so much for your interest in the work we're doing for charity. This is me, Ishreen Bradley, and I'm really excited to share with you some of the projects that we're working on in partnership with Hope for Children. So this is the whole campaign. It's called Balancing the Scales, and it's in support of UN goals 8 and 10, really about reducing inequalities and enabling financial growth and happiness for everybody. That's what we're committed to. We're committed to everybody having a fair crack at work. So I'm delighted to be sharing with you what we're up to here and how you can join us. So this is us. We are the Belonging Pioneers. Our vision is really to balance the scales towards a culture of equity at work. And we know that begins with balancing the scales for children who don't have those same kinds of privileges. So I'm here inviting you to join us in our partnership with Hope for Children to help balance the scales for children all over the world. Welcome to the Privilege Trail Walk. So let me tell you a little bit about the different projects. The first one out of the 5 projects we're sponsoring and fundraising for is in Sri Lanka. And I love this because Sri Lanka is where I was born. And the project itself is to enable differently abled children to learn new ways of interacting and communicating and maximizing those senses that they do have so that they can build stronger relationships and have better opportunities for success in life and potentially at work. So this is an orphanage for deaf and blind children that Hope for Children has been supporting for a very long time, and it's really making a difference to how those children experience life and experience who they are. The next project is in India, and it's about building toilets for girls in schools in India. And if you've read on this subject at all, you'll know how important this is. It means that girls can have 100% education rather than a reduced education because of their biological cycles and not being able to go to school because they can't look after themselves because there are no facilities. So that's a basic requirement. You'll also possibly have heard that, you know, where they don't have toilets in schools, these girls have to go out into the woods, into the jungles in order to relieve themselves. And that puts them at great risk of abuse and not just that they can't get an education, but actually their lives are in danger. So supporting this project will make a huge difference to girls in India and enable them to have a full education so that they have access to the kind of privileges and opportunities in life and at work that you and I enjoy. The third project is in Uganda. We've spoken a lot about education already. We believe that education is a huge privilege. To be able to go to school with your friends, we take for granted, but for these children, it's a privilege. So many children, teens and young adults don't realize this and let the thought pass them by. Many children, teens and young adults around the world do not have this privilege of education, but would quite frankly do anything to be able to access education. Namuango in Uganda is one of the places in the world where children are forced to grow up way before their time and miss out on education. There are currently up to 9,000 children growing up in Namuango, which is one of Uganda's toughest and poorest places. Many children live in temporary one-room shelters that are built of wood and mud and corrugated iron with no electricity or running water. Again, privileges that we have and may from time to time take for granted, but that many children in the world don't have. Many children cannot afford to go to school and must work to help feed themselves and their families. And this leaves them without an education and often forces them to work in high-risk jobs. Girls in Namuango are particularly disadvantaged because they're extremely vulnerable to sexual exploitation and abuse, violence, teen pregnancy, forced marriage, and HIV infection. So one of the projects that Hope for Children have set up to help children access education in Namoango is the Walk to School project. As we said before, many children in Namoango face extreme difficulty to get an education due to funding that most families don't have, and therefore they have to work to help their families. Also in Namoango, disease and illness is common, meaning that many children face extra burdens of trying to access healthcare and looking after their parents and siblings. Walk to School began with adults walking children to school to make sure that they were safe. However, since then, this project now includes payment of school fees, buying school uniforms, and ensuring families get the healthcare they need. Walk to School children also take part in Music and Hope, which is a project that gives children the opportunity to play instruments, which is something they could never afford to do before. This gives them new skills and some rare, fun leisure time. And because of the incredible work that Hope for Children have done for these children and their families so far, many of these children are now university graduates. So you're really making a difference, really balancing the scales for social justice at work and in life for these children in all three countries that we've spoken about so far. But that's not all. Hope for Children are also continuing to support education projects in Kenya. And here they're supporting a school that currently holds 80 children with a couple of teachers. And as you can imagine, that's a very high pupil to teacher ratio, and it's very difficult for children to learn. So Hope for Children are raising funds to build a second schoolhouse with an agreement from the Kenyan government to provide the staff to run and educate in that school building. And again, really multiplying the opportunity for these lovely children to have the same kinds of privileges, or some of the same kinds of privileges as we have. And our final project is at home in the UK. And this is a project that I think is very, very exciting. So let me tell you a little bit more about this project. So we all know that everybody suffered during the pandemic, and with pandemic restrictions, you know, they were designed to keep us safe, but they did have some detrimental impacts on our lives, especially after the pandemic. It has an impact on all of us, whether that's financial or health, for example, but it had a huge impact on underprivileged children, specifically, and that ultimately placed them at a huge disadvantage. You know, we were all using masks, weren't we? So with the constant use of masks during early development of children who were born during lockdown, they didn't get a chance to learn how to speak properly because they couldn't see the movements of the lips of people around them. And they also lacked access to proper education and social skills. So for vulnerable families with young children, the pandemic was severely detrimental to their learning and development. After suffering disruptions to their education, along with delayed developments in socialization and physical exercise. And many children are now starting nursery or reception, and they have very little or no speech at all. And to move these children from where they are to a space of possibility and opportunity, Hope for Children have set up the UK project, also known as CASPER, Community Action and Support for Pandemic Response. This project is currently based in Knowsley in Merseyside, which is the second most disadvantaged borough in England. Hope for Children have pointed out that Knowsley is one of the most deprived boroughs in England, in which increasing rates of population are predicted to put pressure on education and health services. The CASPER project then aims to support vulnerable families by working with nurseries and schools to support parents and families of deprived children. Hope for Children will be using a national book scheme to provide age-appropriate books for all children that parents can read with them. The scheme will provide children between the ages of 0 to 5 with a book each every month via the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. And these books will aim to help improve parental engagement in children's learning and development, which really warms my heart. I'm sure it warms yours too. Hope for Children's key aim is for this project to reduce the delay in development of 0 to 5-year-olds caused by the pandemic restrictions. And they're doing this by supplying provisions for early years resources to families, in addition to the books, they're providing different tools and strategies to help parents engage their children in conversation. So by taking part in the Privilege Trail Walk for Hope for Children, you'll become a part of this journey to providing social justice for underprivileged children who have been severely impacted by the pandemic restrictions. You'll help to provide books and resources for vulnerable families. You may be helping a future doctor, an artist, a writer, a teacher seek their full potential. So we're inviting you to take part in the Privilege Trail Walk, and you'll find all the information on our website, www.belongingpioneers.com. Just go to the tab that has the word charity in it. Please do join. So please do join us. We can't wait for you to participate in the Privilege Trail Walk. It's an exciting project. There's more information about it on our website. And if you choose to take part and you post some great photographs on our Facebook page or on your Just Giving page, you have an opportunity to win some really good prizes, as well as an invitation to our World Day of Social Justice event, Balancing the Scales, with some inspiring speakers and some exciting tools, and also an opportunity to learn a lot more and contribute a lot more to balancing the scales for children all around the world, so that we can accomplish on our vision of all children and everybody having a fair crack at work.